Hi guys, I'm Sherri with the Bridge Builders of Diversity. This is my cousin Jody. Here she is. Today we're going to be talking about my son Nathan. My son Nathan was born with Down syndrome about 12 years ago. We had prenatal testing done and there was suspicion that he had Down syndrome. We still decided to continue on with the pregnancy. I did not continue with the amniocentesis. When he was born, he had a hole in his heart, and we had to feed him pretty much around the clock from the time he was born till the time he had the open heart surgery done when he was 5 months old. He, over the next few months, the first 3 months, he got more and more tired. I literally made a new bottle every hour packed with calories because I didn't want him to have a feeding tube. So we fed him from 5 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. I didn't work for 6-7 months. And then he was home with his father for the summer and didn't start daycare till he was almost 9 months old. But after the open heart surgery, he did great. He was in and out of Boston Children's Hospital in 6 days. So it was amazing.
What was your frame of mind going through all of this?
I wanted to enjoy my pregnancy. The medical community was more focused on him having disabilities and what we were going to do with the pregnancy. I had only gone to prenatal diagnosis because I was an older mom and it was recommended. But I just wanted to enjoy my pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't seeking anything. I embraced whatever I was given because he was a planned pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to love him no matter what.
Right.
And he's actually given me my life's purpose, my calling in life. I do lots of advocacy for him. I know when he was first born, I started reading the rights law books and becoming familiar with all the special ed laws. And I was determined to get him a private placement at the age of 3, which many parents told me that can't be done. You're going to have to try the school districts first. And I literally read those books for 3 years, wrote my own PowerPoint presentation, went to every classroom in our community, met all the teachers, brought my son with me, put him on the floor so they would know. They just didn't have the paperwork on him. They knew who he was as a person. Mm-hmm. And he really, at the age of 3, was not safe to be in a public school. He needed constant monitoring. He was just a kid. His safety development was very slow. He's doing very well with that now, but that was very slow coming. Mm-hmm. And going into that IEP meeting with my own PowerPoint presentation, had met every teacher, occupational therapist, physical therapist, speech language pathologist before that meeting. And I was also teaching him sign language too, because kids with Down syndrome typically do have speech delay. That's part of the syndrome. But I was also told by a wonderful man named Dr. Puchel, who has passed away, incredible man, who also raised a son with Down syndrome. He was a neurodevelopment doctor in Rhode Island, and he told me kids with Down syndrome who learn sign language have better speech when they get older, because that part of the brain, the language part of the brain, is being used.
Right, communication.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I started Nathan from the get-go, teaching him sign language, or what I knew. We also used a lot of the signing time videos. I have like 50 of them. Mm-hmm. And which was great.
An older son, a son that's older than Nathan.
Yeah.
Now, what advice can you give these young moms that are scared, listening to what either doctors or, community is saying for them to do and not do?
Right. One, a lot of people in medicine are not giving up-to-date information, and that's one thing organizations have been working on. We even have been working on that in Rhode Island, making sure that up-to-date information is given out to parents in the prenatal stage, because a lot of medicine is still looking at the institutions of the 60s and 70s. Right. Like many of these people with Down syndrome were put into the institution. They weren't given early intervention, physical therapist, speech, weren't educated. So you cannot compare the people from the 60s to now.
Right.
Nowadays, if your child gets early intervention, goes to school, gets all the therapies, they're going to be a lot more functional than they were many years ago. But you have to expose them to stuff. Many kids with Down syndrome get married, some go to college, and many of them fall in the average range. You know, there still are kids who are born with Down syndrome who are severe and profound, and some are very high functioning. People with mosaic Down syndrome, they're a much smaller part of the population, but they're very high functioning. And then many people with Down syndrome also fall in the average range. But they do things slower, they learn slower, but they're still able to do many things. Many of them live on their own today, go to college, work. They have many opportunities that they didn't have years ago. But that's because people are working with them.
Yep.
You know, it makes a huge difference.
Right.
You know, like Dr. Bushell told me, what you put into him is what you will get out of him.
Yep.
And you know my son, he's very high functioning, he's a very spirited young man. He's certainly not shy.
And he's the sweetest. He's so sweet.
Yes.
So sweet. Very loving. They're so affectionate and so loving.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Yeah, my son's a sweetheart. He's very empathetic and sweet and loving, and I can't imagine my life without him. You know, he's very close with his brother, and he hangs out with his dad, and just I've learned more from my son than I've ever learned in any classroom.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people who think that people with Down syndrome don't have value, I think they have a lot more value. They're the people that teach us to have joy in everything. My son, I mean, something horrible can happen. Yeah, he feels it. He's empathetic towards people, but he's right back to being joyful.
Yep.
Something we all need to learn.
Yep.
He's happy like 98% of the time. He doesn't let life's woes get in his way, and he just keeps getting up and trying and trying. And this is a kid who didn't start walking till he was 3, couldn't jump till he was 5, just starting to get decent speech now at 12 and a half. And he's also hard of hearing, you know. His primary language is sign, and it's funny how when he's with hearing people he talks, and when he's with deaf people he signs. You know, I'm learning sign languages. It's certainly not an easy language to learn.
Right.
It's a tough language.
Yeah.
But I'm giving it my best shot and trying my best to learn it as best I can, you know.
And I guess don't give up. Don't give up on the kids. And
Absolutely not. And push them and push them and push them.
And don't take no for an answer. If somebody says you can't do it, yeah, you can.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can.
You know, these kids just need to be given the opportunity, the chance. And obviously you have to do it at their developmental stage. And the other thing you need to know is kids with Down syndrome, like a typical kid can fill in those blanks where a kid with Down syndrome needs each step. Yeah. They need each.
Specific, very specific.
You need to show, and you may need to show them 50 times before they get it. You know, they're not going to be able to plug in the blanks like a typical kid will. But if you take the time to show these kids how to do X, Y, and Z, they can do it. As long as you have the patience.
Yep.
So, like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.